March 1977. For the first time since independence, the seemingly invincible Congress party had been defeated. Indira Gandhi, the most powerful leader in India, had lost her own seat, and an 81-year-old veteran named Morarji Desai was about to become India's first non-Congress Prime Minister. The victory was nothing short of a political earthquake. But here's the question. How did parties that spent decades fighting each other suddenly unite? And why did the government that promised to restore democracy collapse within just 2 years? And most importantly, why does the story of the Janata Party still matters today? Because almost every major political developments in modern India, from the rise of coalition politics to the emergence of the BJP, can be traced back to this one experiment. Namaste, I'm Sonam Singh and this is Organiser. Today we look at the incredible story of the Janata Party, the coalition that ended Congress's monopoly and changed Indian politics forever. Well, to understand the Janata Party, we first need to understand India in the 1960s and the early 1970s. Congress wasn't just a political party, it was a political system itself. From Jawaharlal Nehru to Lal Bahadur Shastri and then Indira Gandhi, the Congress had governed India continuously since independence. Opposition parties existed, but they were very weak and fragmented. The Bharatiya Janasangh had influence in the Hindi heartland. The socialists had ideological appeal, but they lacked numbers. The Congress organization, led by leaders like Morarji Desai, represented the old guard of the Congress. But none of them really individually could challenge Indira Gandhi. Then came 1971. Indira Gandhi won one of the biggest electoral victories in Indian history. Her slogan, Garibi Hatao, resonated across the country. The victory in the Bangladesh war further elevated her stature. Many political commentators began describing her as invincible. Yet, beneath the surface, trouble was brewing. By 1973 and 1974, Indira was facing severe economic challenges. Inflation was soaring, food prices were rising, unemployment was increasing, there was widespread public dissatisfactions. Student protest erupted in Gujarat. The Navnirman movement demanded the resignation of the state government. Soon, protests spread to Bihar. At the center of this movement emerged an unlikely leader, Jai Prakash Narayan, popularly known as JP. A freedom fighter and socialist, JP had largely withdrawn from active politics. But now he called for what he termed as a total revolution. He appealed to students, workers, and ordinary citizens to challenge corruption and authoritarianism. For the first time, the fragmented opposition found a common cause. And then came a bombshell. On June 12, 1975, the Allahabad High Court found Prime Minister Indira Gandhi guilty of electoral malpractices. The court invalidated her election and barred her from holding elective office. The opposition demanded her resignation. JP called for nationwide protest. Political tensions reached a boiling point, and then, on the night of 25th June 1975, India entered one of the most controversial periods in its democratic history, the emergency. Civil liberties were suspended, opposition leaders were arrested, press censorship was imposed, and thousands of political activists were detained. Among those arrested were Morarji Desai, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Lal Krishna Advani, George Fernandez, Charan Singh, and Organiser's second editor, K.R. Malkani ji. Ironically, it was this crackdown that created the conditions for the birth of the Janata Party. In prison and underground networks, opposition leaders began talking. They realized something important. Individually, they could not and they could never defeat Congress. But united, they had a chance. Thus began one of the most extraordinary political experiments in Indian history. Several parties came together: Bharatiya Janasangh, the Congress, Bharatiya Lokdal, socialist groups, regional leaders and activists. Their ideologies were completely different. Some were socialist, some were conservatives, some were Gandhian. Some had spent decades opposing one another. But one thing united them: their opposition to the emergency. And finally, on 18th January 1977, they formally merged to create the Janata Party. It was less a political party and more a coalition of anti-Congress forces or anti-Indira Gandhi forces. Soon after announcing elections, Indira Gandhi expected an easy victory. After all, the opposition had been in prison. Its organization was weak and Congress still had enormous resources. But she underestimated the mood of the people. The election became a referendum on the emergency. the Janata Party promised only one thing, that is the restoration of democracy. And the response they achieved was extraordinary. Northern India witnessed a political tsunami. Congress was wiped out in many states. Even Indira Gandhi lost in Raebareli. Sanjay Gandhi lost in Amethi, and the Janata Party and its allies secured a historic victory. For the first time since 1947, Congress was finally out at the center. India had shown the world something remarkable. Its democracy could correct itself. Its voter could defeat even the most powerful government. But this victory brought another problem. Who would lead the government? There were three powerful contenders: Morarji Desai, Charan Singh, and Jagjeevan Ram. Each had considerable support. The risk of division was real. At this crucial moment, Jayaprakash Narayan and Acharya Kripalani intervened. They selected Morarji Desai as the leader, and at the age of 81, he became first ever non-Congress Prime Minister. The government included leaders who would shape India's future. Atal Bihari Vajpayee became the External Affairs Minister. Sri Lal Krishna Advani became Information and Broadcasting Minister, and George Fernandes became Communication Minister. Charan Singh became Home Minister. Jagjeevan Ram became the Defence Minister. The Janata experiment had officially begun. Despite lasting only 2 years, the Janata government made several important contributions. First, it restored democratic freedoms. Press censorship ended, political prisoners were released. Second, it passed constitutional amendments that made it difficult to impose another emergency in the country. Third, it attempted to reduce the excessive concentration of power in the Prime Minister's office. And most importantly, it demonstrated that peaceful democratic transfer of power was possible in India. For a democracy barely 30 years old, this was a historic achievement. But the Janata Party had one fatal weakness. It was united against someone, but not united for something. There was no common ideology, no common vision, and soon old rivalries returned. Morarji Desai and Charan Singh clashed repeatedly. Socialists distrusted the former Jana Sangh leaders. The issue of dual membership in the RSS became highly contentious. Internal battles paralyzed the government. The coalition spent more time fighting itself than the governing. By 1979, the government had lost its majority. Morarji Desai resigned, Charan Singh briefly became Prime Minister but failed to prove his majority, and the Janata experiment had collapsed. The collapse of the Janata Party paved the way for Indira Gandhi's dramatic return to power in 1980. But the story did not end here. The former Jan Sangh leaders regrouped, and in 1980, they founded a new political party, the Bharatiya Janata Party. Many of India's future Prime Minister and senior leaders gained their first experience in national government during the Janata years. In many ways, the Janata Party became the bridge between Congress dominance and the era of coalition politics that would define India in the 1990s and beyond. The Janata Party survived barely for 2 years, yet its legacy remains enormous. It ended the myth that Congress could never be defeated. It proved that Indian democracy was resilient. It changed the course of Indian democracy forever. Because sometimes even a short-lived experiment can leave a permanent mark on the history. So was the collapse of the Janata Party inevitable, or could it made change India's political future? Tell us in the comments below.